Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jennifer and you're watching Moreau Family Farm. If you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by today. Hopefully you enjoy our content, and if you've been to our channel many times, we've missed you. Today I have something kind of exciting. If you guys have been following since winter, then you guys would know that we're trying to sell our house, and I didn't really want to do a garden this year because I didn't know if we were going to be here, and it was too much to get started, thinking that we'd be in the process of moving and all that stuff. Well, since then, we had an offer on our house. We almost sold. We were supposed to close back in March, and things fell through. Now we're back on the market, and the banking situation kind of took a plunder, so it's kind of putting us at a standstill. We actually have not had any showings in the last 2 weeks. So with that being said, it's making me think I am so glad that I started all of these behind me, because I really wasn't going to do it. Let me show you what we got started. Oh, if you remember, we did a video where I was showing you, this was probably just a few weeks back, of where I started all of these plants. We did a few different types of tomatoes, some 2 different types of cucumbers, some zucchini, spaghetti squash, what else? We started some pumpkin, a bunch of flowers, peppers, cilantro, basil, parsley, all different kinds of things. So let me get you guys turned around so you can see what I have. Oh, another thing that we started was some Kentucky pole beans. So over here, these guys are a little on the frail side. If you can see, they're just a little bouncy here, but that's okay. They just need to be up potted to kind of spruce up a little bit. But I use a couple of sticks like this and crisscross them and then put them in the center just to kind of give them a little bit more stability. This needs to be a little closer together. But I have them outside hardening off a little bit, and you can see my cilantro is getting a little leggy. So I've never grown cilantro before, you guys. This is the first time I've grown it myself. I've always just store-bought. So we'll see how it does. I do know that I need to up pot it, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But over here we have, these are the Kentucky pole beans, these really big, long ones, and they are doing amazing. Some of them kind of got a little weird though, like the tops of them popped off, and this one is just kind of growing a little funny, but that's okay. I'm going to give it a chance and see what happens. But over here, these are some cucumbers right here. This is the Baker Creek Dar cucumber, and this one is a Haas gherkin cucumber. So those are doing well. This one in the center here, if I remember correctly, I think this is a butternut squash. Nope. This one is the spaghetti squash. This one on the outside is a butternut squash. These little ones right here. Let me turn it around this way so I can read it a little bit better. This one is a zucchini. So these are getting a little bit long and crazy looking. But these are zucchinis, so I need to up pot these or put them in the ground, one or the other. And this is another zucchini. Oh, this one's summer squash. Yes, I just planted those. In my original video, I was talking about how I didn't have any actual summer squash or like the yellow squash. So I went and I got myself some seeds, and I just put these in here like maybe 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. And look, this is from just a couple days ago, you guys. I was thinking that it was a different zucchini, but it's not. How cool is that? So anyways, got that going on. And the cilantro, I do have some acorn squash that popped up. This big one right here is an acorn squash. This one here is an acorn squash. And these are basil. The cilantro, this is a basil plant right here. All of these are basil. Then Over here, these are my tomato plants, and you're going to see that the tomatoes look a little funny. And the reason for that is because I popped off their heads. Yes, we did an off with their heads kind of situation. If you want your tomato plants to grow really abundantly, then you want to take the stem that grows out the middle, you want to pop that off completely. So that's what we did with these tomatoes, and they are going to grow amazing. And then over here we have some more basil in these 2 rows, and here's some pepper plants. This one still has a little seed that needs to come off the top of it. But my pepper plants are starting to germinate, which is great. We've got more tomato plants back here. These are taking a little bit longer to germinate, but I did sow these a little bit. I did sow these a little bit later. So we have some cantaloupe that's going to grow here. Some crimson sweet watermelon that's going to grow in this row here. And then I have some Italian flat leaf and some double curled parsley that's going to grow in those 2 rows right there. This is one of the tops that I had popped off of the tomatoes, and I just stuck it in right here, and we're going to see if it's going to grow. And then all of these right here, these are all flowers. Every last one of them. So these are zinnias. And the zinnias, eventually we're going to pop the tops off the zinnias too, but they're not ready to do that yet. Again, the reason why we pop the tops off of them, with zinnias, if you pop the tops off, then they will grow abundance in flowers. Instead of just one stalk, they'll grow multiple stalks. So you always want to make sure that you pop the tops off your zinnias. You do have to wait a bit longer to start seeing some flowering, but once you do, you really start seeing some nice flowers. More flowers. And same thing with the tomatoes. You have to wait a little bit longer to start seeing the fruit, but once it does start to fruit, you're going to start seeing a lot more fruit than what it would have normally produced. So they've been in the house for a few days, and I finally decided that I needed to harden them off a little bit. So yesterday was the first day of hardening off, and I did something a little bit courageous and wasn't quite sure how things were going to go, but I figured I had enough stuff growing that if they died, I would be okay with it. And what I did was I sowed 2 of the spaghetti squash. So there's a spaghetti squash here and another spaghetti squash right here. I also put in the cucumbers. So there's cucumber here. One, where is it? Right here. One right here. And one right here. Now I typically don't grow my cucumbers along this fence, but I have not had good luck with my cucumbers. So I thought that this year I would try putting them in a different area and see if they would grow better and maybe produce better fruit. So I'm going to check this out this year, see what happens. Hopefully it has an abundance of cucumbers for the new owners of the house when they come. Do you guys see how different it looks when I stand here in my garden? How we have so much color and it's not brown anymore. Look at all this green and the pink flowers, and you know, we got some white flowers back here on this trellis right here. They're going to be beautiful purple clematis vine. During the winter, the whole thing dies down and I have to cut it, and it looks drab and horrible for a while, but then in the spring and summer it grows really big. And then I had put some lettuce in here a while back, and I have been eating off of it daily, so this is doing really well. We have some rosemary down here. On the other side we have some lavender, so there's some lavender growing right here. But that's it, just the rosemary, lettuce, and lavender. Oh, that lavender smells so good. So good. Now, I do have some cilantro that's growing in here. Didn't think that those were going to start growing, but we have cilantro growing there, which is awesome. And then also my grapevine is doing amazing. So that came back really nice this year. Last year we didn't get any fruit off of it. I bought it kind of later in the summertime and it just didn't do so well. So I'm glad to see that it is back and starting to vine off a little bit. But I'm actually kind of hoping we don't get any fruit from it this year. And that we can take it with us to our new location and set up a nice good trellis. And over here in our raised bed, I put some, these are the dar cucumbers. Oh, I'm sorry, I think these are the gherkin cucumbers. Yeah, these are the gherkin cucumbers that I put over here. And then on the back side, this is the Kentucky pole bean. So we have 4 of those here. That's not going to be nearly enough. But since the trellis is up here, at least they can vine a little bit. And then something we did last year is we had a cattle panel that ran from here over the top and attached over on this side here. And that was really good for the tomatoes. They vined on that really well. So I'm thinking I might want to do some of the tomatoes right here along the ground. Just in this area here. That way it gets to vine up on this trellis right here. Another place that I was thinking about doing tomatoes, because tomatoes like a little bit of shade. So I was thinking another place that we might put it, although of course right now it's super sunny, but it doesn't get sun here a lot, is in this raised bed right here and stake them up with just the tomato stakes. But the only thing with that is tomatoes can get really, really tall. So I don't know if this raised bed is going to be just a little bit too tall for something like that. But when you put tomatoes directly in the ground, sometimes it creates more issues with the hornworms. Regardless if it's going to be in a raised bed or on the ground, you're probably still going to get hornworms because those little buggers are nasty. You got to pull them off every single day, or your tomatoes are just going to get ruined. It's just, if you're going to have tomatoes, you're most likely going to get hornworms, and the easiest way to find them is when they're big, but you want to try to catch them before they get big. Well, it's hard to find their eggs though, but they're hard to find. Well, you can see their poop. Yeah, well, yes, that's a very good indicator to know if you have hornworms, is if you can find like little black poop all over the place. You'll kind of question like, what is this and where did it come from? But then you'll soon realize that it's hornworms on your tomatoes and you'll have to take them off immediately. And during the day they hide under the leaf, and at night they come out. Right. During the day they're on the bottom side of the leaf and they're going to be harder to see, and they're easier to find when it's like more dusk time or in the evening time. Some people say that you can find them with a black light also. They're supposed to glow in the dark. I don't know if we've ever had a really huge success with that or not. Flashlights, yes, but not any different than with your daylight or your eyeballs. So anyways, that's, if you're going to do it, I suggest putting them in a lowered raised bed like this. It's going to be a little bit easier than directly in the ground. But of course you can put them directly in the ground as well. What's wrong with her? Why is she crying? She doesn't like it. She got hurt this morning too, I think.
Yeah, I accidentally hurt her.
You okay? What's the matter?
Oh no, she's actually really scared.
Yeah, I think she got really scared this morning.
It's not because of this.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to plant everything. I'm not going to plant all of my plants just in case, because I do want to take some with us when we move. And I'm praying that we move sometime during the summer. As soon as the kids get out of school would be ideal. But whatever happens, happens. And yeah, so we have a lot of tomatoes that are going to be going in the ground. I was saying about hardening off. So you want to put them outside for like maybe an hour or a couple hours a day, and then bring them back inside and do that a couple days in a row. And that's going to make these stalks, like these, like the ones over here that are kind of weak, it's going to help to make them nice and hard and firm them up. You want to do it while they're still fairly low. That way you're not trying to harden them off when they're too big and overgrown. This is probably like the perfect size to bring them outside, where they're not too big and they're not too low. These are a little on the bigger side, but that's okay. They're doing great. You can see like some of them are very, very solid. Some of them not so much, but they'll be fine. Once they get in the ground, when you plant them, you can plant them fairly deep into the ground, which will also help them, especially with these that are a little bit leggy here. If you planted them like this far, it'll do really well. And that's kind of what happened with these over here. So this one, you can see that it's still fairly long, but it was pretty weak. And we'll see how this one does. I'm not 100% sure how this one's gonna do, but this one is doing amazing. Sometimes it's just a waiting game. Plant them, see what happens, and go from there. There is no actual science to anything. Every zone is going to be different, so it just depends on what you're working with. But you won't know what to grow or where to grow it until you actually try it yourself. So if one year you grew a bunch of things in one area and they all did horrible, don't think that you can't grow that particular vegetable. Just try a different area next year. Not every area is going to have the same soil or the same amount of sun or the same amount of shade. So just move things around a little bit and see how things work out. That's why I was kind of hesitant on putting this stuff in my raised bed here, because last year our tomatoes did amazing in there. And the reason for that is because they do like shade, and this area gets a good amount of shade. You guys, you see this? I hate those. Those are the worst thing ever. They're trying to kill my food. No. Well, they're trying to kill all of us. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. But, yeah, so just wanted to share that with you guys really quick. I don't think there's anything else that I really want to show you except for one thing. We have put sunflowers in a lot of different areas the last few years that we've been here, and sometimes you'll just get volunteers that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. And speaking of volunteer, yesterday Alexia and I were looking in our beds on the outside here, and I found this. This, you guys, is kale. Uh-oh. Looks like something might have been eating this leaf. But I don't see anything. But this is kale, and I don't recall ever growing kale here. Maybe the first year we lived here I did. I'm not 100% sure. But this grew back, and it is delicious. So we're going to give it some more time and let it grow in. But this whole bed here, every year, this entire bed, and this whole side right here, we normally do just sunflowers. And it looks so cool when the sunflowers are growing and getting really big. Oh, here's a couple. I believe this one might be a sunflower. We'll have to see when it grows up. But we even put more sunflower seeds down this year. And again, I just kind of ignored them. So sunflowers like to just come up whenever they want. You can obviously water them, give them sun, and they'll grow much quicker. But if you kind of leave them alone sometimes, they'll grow on their own. They're very, very hardy seeds. But we'll see what happens. And then over here, my lemon balms are doing amazing. Those are some really hardy plants. Lemon balm grows really well. But they are the type of plant like a mint that if you don't keep it contained, they will get kind of wild and crazy. So you do have to keep them trimmed up or they will just get out of control on you. But This one over here is getting really big as well. But that's it. Just wanted to share this with you guys while it was still fairly early in spring, before we got everything in the ground or before things started to fruit. I wanted to fill you guys in on the process of getting it in the ground and stuff. And when I go to plant the rest of the stuff, maybe I'll take you guys along with me, show you how far I go into the ground, and we'll plant them together. So that is it. Until next time, you guys be blessed. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.